G'day, Chris Bowen from EFTM, and I'm joined by Holden's new 7-seat SUV, the Acadia. Holden now have a fairly diverse SUV lineup, and with the end of local manufacturing recently, they have no choice now but to import cars from America. This is a General Motors car. It's been around for a long, long time, but it's now been badged as a Holden. Now, some skeptics may suggest that, well, this is just the car from the Yanks. Well, that's not the case. Sure, it's made in Tennessee, Spring Hill as a matter of fact, but it's benefited from a lot of local tuning here in Australia. It's powered by a 3.6 litre petrol V6 engine, 231 kilowatts of power on tap, and 367 Newton meters of torque. Available in two-wheel drive and all-wheel drive options, the range spans across an LT, an LTZ, and an LTZV variant. Prices range from $43,990 through to $67,990, although there are some early discounts if you get in early. For me, I think what will attract a lot of people to this particular car is not the name, Acadia. I mean, what on earth is that? It is simply the looks. It's got that great American front-end grille, really aggressive styling along the profile of the car, squared off wheel arches. I like the rear end with the rear tailpipes. It's a good looking car. And as a 7-seater, it's quite big as well. It certainly matches the CX-9 and Toyota Kluger. I'd be comfortable sitting in the third row, which is pretty rare for any 7-seat SUV. What's it like behind the wheel? Well, look, it's a big, cushy SUV. But when I say cushy, it's a comfortable ride, it's refined, it's nice and it's quiet, but it's still quite stable. It doesn't have a pitch and roll effect that some of these larger SUVs have, like a Nissan Pathfinder, for example. And that's all down to, as I mentioned, the local tuning done by the Holden development team right here in Australia. It's got adaptive suspension on this model, and you really do notice it when you start pushing through some of these corners when you're in a bit of a spirited drive. And that's an interesting thing to do in an SUV, because most people won't be driving the way we've driven on this particular test drive. But if you do feel like getting a little bit more engaged with the car and having a bit more fun within reason, it is capable of delivering satisfying driving dynamics, which I think gives it the edge over some of its competitors, particularly the Toyota Kluger. The Mazda CX-9 and Mazdas in general are fairly well honed when it comes to their driving dynamics, but this is a bit of a surprise for what is a North American vehicle. It's a GMC vehicle. Now, as I sit here at highway speeds, everything's nice and refined, and I've got everything I also need. I've got automatic headlights, automatic wipers, an infotainment system which is brand new, although you can use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto if you so desire. If things get a little cold, I've got heated seats. If it's a little warm, I've got air-conditioned seats as well. Tri-zone air conditioning to keep everyone in the cabin happy. There's great roof-mounted air vents in the rear as well. USB charge points are everywhere. We've got 2 in the front, 2 in the second row, and 1 in the back, and they're fast charging USBs as well, so everyone's devices can be charged at a good rate. The only thing I will say is that although fit and finish seems to be okay, some of the panels throughout the cabin are a little bit plasticky, but the rest of it is quite semi-premium. You've got lovely leather seats, and a reasonably good level of coach work has been put into the car overall. The steering is pretty well weighted. It's nice and direct through the corners. There's no sense of it, you know, wandering, or you're starting to lose a sense of exactly where the front wheels are going. The only thing I will say is that the four-wheel drive certainly has an edge over the front-wheel drive model, as you'd expect, particularly in some of the conditions we've seen throughout Victoria here, where it's been quite wet. There's been a lot of leaf debris on the ground. I like the surety of having all-wheel drive when it's an option. So power is good from a standing start. It's fairly rapid, 231 kilowatts on display there from the 3.6 litre V6. That's pretty punchy, I've got to say, for an SUV. Mind you, you're really going to blow out your fuel economy if you drive like that. But the car I'm in is averaging 9.8 litres per 100, which is pretty good considering the drive program that we've been on today. I spoke at the start about the local tuning, and it really does benefit from it. It's not that typical yank tank floating along the road. It really is an engaging drive, particularly on some of these beautiful roads in Victoria in the Yarra Valley. Look, it's a winner in my mind. I think the pricing is spot on. The sweet spot will probably be the LTZ model. You don't necessarily need the all-wheel drive model, but it does make for, well, more grip and more security, particularly in wet conditions. Holden needed something unique to arrive on our shores. The Commodore hasn't done so well. The rest of the SUV lineup is a little bit bland. I'm not a huge fan of the Equinox in particular. I think you need to have a look at the Acadia. It certainly stands out in the category, holds its head high, and look, I'm predicting big things for it. Chris Bowen from EFTM.